Hello all, welcome again, a very warm welcome. I feel immensely pleased to offer this new course. It is called Literary and Cultural Disability Studies and Exploration. This is the next level course to our course on Disability Studies and Introduction. Thank you for a great success. Building on that, let's do this new course. Hereafter, I'm going to fondly call this course LCDS, Literary and Cultural Disability Studies. It's meant to give insights into methods, approaches, forms of interpretations, analysis, explanations that come with disability and its interface with literature in a broader sense of the term. Because of this broader understanding, we will do analysis of culture, folklore, film, etc. Okay? How do I introduce this course? In many ways, this course has 4 broad modules, if you like. Let's walk through one by one and what we may be doing in that in those modules. So that's what this introductory lecture is all about. Okay, so the first idea of LCDS, it means that there should be and is a canon available. So, in some sense, canon formation is the first model in which we will have several lectures. As you see, all disciplines, social sciences, humanities, sciences, and so on, they build their own canons. Canon defined as, in Greek, it signifies some kind of a measuring rod or a rule. Over a period of time, it meant list of books, the Hebrew Bible, the New and the Old Testaments. It's made up of several books. In fact, Bible is a library which hosts many books actually. But in a secular sense, canon can mean works or archive of an author. Say, in students of English can recognize this: the Chaucer canon, Shakespeare canon, canon of post-colonial writing, canon involving Dalit literature, and so on. The list may go on. Here, therefore, in the first module, which is canon formation, we'll be talk about the ways in which, means by which LCDS, Literary and Cultural Disability Studies, for its flourishing, how canon can be built and is built. Clearly, I am not building the canon. I am only, in some sense, walking with you through the canon that is in the formation stages. Many achievements have happened in that respect. So let's take canon in its various senses. In the first sense, canon may mean archive. Archive means some kind of a storage house of materials on a given subject, say disability and literature. How do we build an archive? There are one traditional way of doing it, say exploring ancient epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Iliad, Odyssey, and so on, and see and explore those epics for characterization, plot, verse formations, and so on, that broadly connect with the idea of disability. The king Dhritarashtra, the blind king, and the myth of Odysseus, Oedipus complex, the act of blinding, and so on. So visit ancient and modern medieval literatures and so on for traces of disability characterization, disability tropology, disability genres, and so on. That's one way, traditionally. But there is a revisionist way of doing the tradition as well. Feminism has hugely benefited by revisionist historiography, basically revisiting the old materials in light of our own life, in light of 21st century realities that involve gender politics, social contract views of the present, new bodily aesthetics, and all the kind of stuff, you know. So seeing old things in new light. It's not like old wine in new bottle. It's not as ridiculous as that, but it's a new way of looking at old things. Why do we do that? Because past doesn't die. It mutates. It gains new shapes as newer and newer generations keep revisiting the traditions. So this strand is called New Historicism. So we'll have examples from both the ways. I mean, traditional historiography, looking things as they were, and revisionism, which involves new historicist ways of visiting old archive. And the second way of forming an archive is to, in some sense, give a new, seeing things in new light, giving a new point of view, rehabilitate stereotypes. A critic would call that counter diagnosis. So just because we inherited different old materials, ancient materials, classical ones, we don't have to necessarily keep them as they are. We can give a counter diagnosis, as it were. For example, Tobin Siebers, one of the important critics, is no more. He says, my withered limb is my compass. Look at that. You have your withered limbs, broken. Instead of saying that is a disadvantage, you end up saying it's a compass. compass gives new directions, a new sense of life. If you like, if you can call it a GPS for life. So the withered limb is conspicuous. Maybe others see it as a repaired or broken limb, but for him it gives new purpose, new modalities of navigating human relationships and so on. So therefore, he calls it a compass. You see? Counter diagnosis, Canon formation as a counter diagnosis in creating new, it can tutor an untutored eye. It can give new philosophical outlook. It can give new perspectives that never existed, right? So that's one of the ways in which canon can be formed. So far, traditional and new historicist way of forming an archive. Second, telling a new story that can break old stereotypes and old ways of, false ways of looking at disability, called counter diagnosis. And the third way in which canon, the LCDS canon, can be built is to create an archive of discourse, discourse analysis and so on. So that means building new vocabulary, new point of view. For example, we will visit a concept such as Visionism. Visionism, framed by Martin Milligan, is an approach that says there is an undue emphasis on sightedness. In a way, it discriminates people who have sight loss, and and privileging vision in this sense is called Visionism. The moment you develop such a perspective, suddenly new social realities, new literary narratives become or come to surface that have certain traces of Visionism. So you have a torchlight in that sense. You have a torchlight called Visionism, and you sort of point out some dark spots out there. And because of this powerful torchlight, some dark spots in human thought come into picture. So this is again one more way of forming a canon. So what am I saying? In a course such as LCDS, we will be doing revisiting, doing, analyzing, examining ways in which canon get formed, because canon is the central force that drive all disciplines. In fact, any discipline is possible when we attend to the canon question. Okay. The second module that about this course is literary criticism, under the broader topic, literary criticism. Why? Well, whether you are a feminist or you are interested in the problem of race, ethnic politics, caste, globalization, material history, anything, you will require a capacity for close reading of the literary narratives or cultural narratives or film narratives, anything. When it comes to literature, for example, one will have to, develop a skill to understand workings of poetry, such as rhythm, meter, textuality, and so on. When it comes to film analysis, one may require skills to understand camera techniques, celluloidal projection, audience participation, character making, film production, choreography, and much more. So these techniques, there is a view that if one is a close reader, one develops close reading, one becomes apolitical. Oh, that's not true. Attention to style, rhythm, and such things can give huge understanding to politics, without a doubt. For example, let me draw your attention to things such as practical criticism, promoted by I.A. Richards in Cambridge in early 20s. I.A. Richards gathered graduate students in his class and circulated poem samples. For I.A. Richards and his students, it seems the poem, a piece of poetry, revealed itself in the fullest sense of the term. If you attend and if you know the workings of vocabulary, rhythm, style, techniques of the poem, you know everything. You will know everything what you need to know according to them. Well, clearly that's some kind of reductionism. But what practical criticism teaches now, of course, or practical criticism was later on developed as new criticism in America. The thing is, closer attention to the workings of the text in all its details, including rhetorical persuasion, helps us to know where and how it enters politics of the moment, where it is received, where it is performed, and where it animates in the minds and bodies of people. Okay, so and thus came political performance and so on. If you like, why do I get into this literary criticism method at all? Well, we do believe that practical criticism, the body of the text, is about the body of the text, and the body of the text is simply entangled with the body of the readers. For example, take an instance such as novel. Novel requires individual immersion into it. Maybe you develop some kind of acoustic bubble around you. It's like somebody tethered to an iPod with headphone. While your parents are doing household chores, you might be, stuck into Harry Potter's magic world and fully transported into that world sitting in Chennai. And you also develop an acoustic shield, as it were, around you, so that whoever calls you from distance, you're totally unaware. So novel, therefore, is an individualist connection, and therefore novel as a literary form came into existence only when individual modernity came into being from 18th century onwards. Before 18th century, there was no novel at all. Take another example. Several sonnet, 4 stanzas, and 4 stanzas take the argument builds, as it were, from childhood to youthfulness to middle age and old age. Shakespeare sonnets, 4 stanzas, have 4 seasons with them, 4 stages of life, 4 elements of life, and much more. It is like the body imitating, the textual body imitating the body politics of life. Take another example of another form of text, autobiography. It is all about oneself. Several studies, including deaf studies or gender studies, have made fuller use of autobiography in its various forms. Nowadays, people call life writing, because life writing is much more than autobiography. Because life writing can include many forms of self-expression, such as diary, letters, a simple scribble on the wall, graffiti, a simple bodily gesture, and so on. So, I will do practical criticism to get into the heart of the finer connect between textual forms and expressions involving disability. So, what are the examples of writing I may take to illustrate this? Well, I may take instances of deaf poetry, conditions such as Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's involve deaf poetry, for example, involves sign language, and signs, SIGNS, in various assertions reveal the greatness of sign language as much as the politics connected with it. Similarly, Alzheimer's narrative may talk about memory, its wandering nature, its its disjunctive characteristics, and the stream of memories that are willing to animate and conserve themselves. It reveals very rare things about human condition. So, so what am I saying? In literary criticism module, I'll pay closer attention to the text. Is that all about literary criticism? No. I will also pay closer attention to context. What does that mean? I'll speak about that in a minute. Thank you.